My parents told everyone they had triplets but kept me hidden in the basement. As the fourth backup child for spare parts, I watched my identical sisters live their lives through security cameras for 13 years, while mom drew my blood for compatibility tests. When they tried to harvest my kidney for my sixth sister, all three triplets helped me escape by shattering their bedroom window. At 3 a.m., revealing to the neighbors that their parents had been claiming $2.8 million in insurance for triplets, while hiding a fourth child as a living organ bank. My parents told everyone they had triplets. I was the fourth, the backup child they kept hidden in case something happened to the others. I lived in the basement, watching my siblings' lives through security cameras. They'd sneak down at night to bring me food and teach me what they learned at school. On our 13th birthday, when the others got cake upstairs, they brought me a single candle. Make a wish to get out, they whispered. But how do you escape when you don't officially exist? The basement became my whole world the day we came home from the hospital. While my siblings got birth certificates, I got a storage room with a mattress. Mom explained it simply. Insurance covers 3 babies. 4 would bankrupt us, but we're keeping you safe down here, just in case. Just in case what? I didn't understand then. I watched my siblings grow up on a flickering monitor. First steps, first words, first day of school. They were labeled on the screen. Lily, camera 1, Emma, camera 2, Olivia, camera 3. I didn't have a camera, I didn't have a name. Mom called me Spare when she remembered to bring food. The insurance papers were kept in a lockbox by my bed. I learned to read from those documents. Maximum coverage for triplet birth, $2.8 million. Quadruplet birth, $50,000 total. Beneath that, another paper that made my stomach twist. Rare blood type O negative, universal donor. Perfect match probability among identical siblings, 100%. My siblings discovered me by accident when we were 5. They'd been playing hide and seek when Emma found the basement door. 3 identical faces stared at me through the crack. Are you our ghost? Lily whispered. That night they came back. Every night after that too. They'd wait until our parents started snoring, then creep down with whatever they could steal from dinner. Olivia taught me to read better. Emma showed me math. Lily brought down her drawings and taped them to my walls. Why don't you live upstairs? They asked. Because I'm the emergency one, I said, repeating what I'd been told. They didn't understand. Neither did I, really. Not until Olivia got sick. She was 8 when the doctors found problems with her kidneys. I watched on the monitors as our parents paced the living room. We have options, Mom said. We've been smart, we've been prepared. That night, my siblings didn't come down. I could see them on the screens, huddled in their room, crying. The next morning, Dad came to the basement with a medical kit. Just some tests, he said. Standard stuff. The needle hurt. The blood vials filled one by one, 6 of them. Then he checked my eyes, my reflexes, pressed on my stomach where my kidneys were. Perfect, he muttered. Absolutely perfect. Olivia got better with medication. The basement door locked from the outside after that. My siblings started leaving me notes under the door. We're trying to find a way. We won't let them hurt you. You're our sister, not spare parts. Years passed in that basement. I exercised to stay healthy, had to keep the spare parts in good condition. Studied from old textbooks my siblings smuggled down. I watched them go to school, make friends, and live lives. Every birthday, 3 candles upstairs, 1 candle downstairs. Same wish every year. When we turned 12, Emma broke her arm so badly the bone came through the skin. On the monitor, I watched our parents exchange looks. Dad's hand went to his pocket where he kept the basement key. No, I whispered to the empty room. Please no, but Emma's arm healed clean. The key stayed in his pocket. The worst part wasn't the isolation. It wasn't eating scraps or sleeping on concrete. It was watching my sisters live knowing I existed only as their backup, their walking medical supply, a ghost child waiting to be harvested. They tried to tell someone once. Lily broke down to a teacher about her other sister. The school called our parents. That night, I watched Mom explain about Lily's imaginary quadruplet, a trauma response to being a triplet. So creative, so troubled. Therapy was recommended. The lock on my door got upgraded to digital. On our 13th birthday, I sat in the dark listening to the party upstairs. Laughter, music, the voices of kids I'd never meet. When midnight came, my sisters snuck down with a cupcake they'd hidden. 1 candle flickering in the darkness. Make a wish, they said. Tears streaming down 3 identical faces. Wish to get out. We're going to help you. We promise. I closed my eyes, blew out the candle, wished for the only thing I'd ever wanted, to exist. But when morning came, I was still in the basement, still watching their lives through grainy screens. Still the emergency child, the spare parts, the ghost in the basement that only 3 people in the world knew was real. Mom came down that afternoon with a medical kit again. More tests, more vials of blood. Just checking everything's working properly, she said. Can never be too prepared. She paused at the door, looking back at me. You know you're loved, right? We kept you. We could have given you away, but we kept you. That's love. The door locked behind her. The red light blinked. At that moment, I knew I had a decision to make. One that would not only change my life, but the lives of my triplets forever. The decision crystallized in my mind like ice forming on glass. I couldn't wait for my sisters to save me. I couldn't depend on wishes or hope. If I wanted to exist, I had to make it happen myself. I started small. Every time Mom or Dad came down for tests, I memorized their routines. Dad always checked his phone exactly 3 times during each visit. Mom hummed the same tune while drawing blood. They were creatures of habit, and habits could be exploited. The security cameras became my teachers. I studied my parents like a scientist studying lab rats. Dad left for work at 7:43 every morning, returned at 6:17. Mom grocery shopped on Tuesdays, had book club on Thursdays. They fought about money on the 15th of each month when bills came due. My sisters noticed the change in me first. During their nightly visits, they found me doing push-ups, sit-ups, running in place. I had to stay strong, not just as spare parts, but as someone who could fight back. Emma brought down a notebook hidden in her math textbook. We developed a code. 1 tap on the pipes meant parents awake. 2 taps meant all clear. 3 meant emergency. The notebook became our planning document, passed back and forth under the door. I drew diagrams of the house from memory and camera angles, marked exit points, hiding spots, blind zones where the cameras couldn't see. My sisters filled in details from upstairs, which floorboards creaked, which windows opened silently, where Dad kept his keys. The first real test came 3 weeks later. Olivia had a swim meet on Saturday. Both parents would attend, leaving at noon, returning by 4. 4 hours of opportunity. I'd been practicing picking the digital lock with hairpins my sisters smuggled down. The mechanism was simple once you understood it. That morning, I watched them leave on the monitors, counted to 300 to make sure they hadn't forgotten anything. Then I went to work on the lock. My hands shook, but muscle memory took over. Click, click, the red light turned green. The door opened for the first time in 5 years without an adult present. The basement stairs looked impossibly tall. I climbed them slowly, legs trembling from more than exertion. At the top, another door. This one unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped into a kitchen I'd only seen through screens. Everything was wrong. The proportions, the colors, the smells. Real life didn't match the grainy footage I'd lived through. I touched the counter, the refrigerator, a chair. Solid. Real. Proof I wasn't dreaming. I wanted to explore everything, but time was limited. I found Dad's study, searched his desk, insurance papers, medical records, bank statements. I photographed everything with an old digital camera Emma had snuck down months ago. Evidence. Proof I existed. In Mom's closet, I found a box labeled baby memories. 3 hospital bracelets, 3 birth certificates, 3 sets of footprints. Nothing for a 4th child. But underneath, wrapped in tissue paper, a 4th hospital bracelet. Baby girl D. Same date, same time, plus 3 minutes. I existed. I had proof. The garage door rumbled. They were home early. Panic flooded my system. I ran, taking the stairs 3 at a time, slamming the basement door behind me. The digital lock clicked shut just as I heard Mom's voice in the kitchen. My heart hammered as I watched them on the monitors. They moved through their routine, oblivious, but Olivia knew. During dinner, she kept glancing at the basement door. That night, she slipped me a note. They came home because Emma called them, said she felt sick. We bought you time. My sisters had created a distraction. They were learning to be conspirators. Over the following weeks, we refined our system. Lily started art classes on Saturdays, giving us another window. Emma joined debate club after school. Olivia took up volunteering at the hospital. Each activity meant time away from home, opportunities for me to practice existing. I learned to reset the lock from inside, to move through the house without leaving traces. I memorized where every object belonged, how every cushion sat. I became a ghost who could walk through walls without disturbing dust. But Mom was getting suspicious. She started coming down at random times, checking my vitals, asking strange questions. Do you ever think about leaving? She asked one day while taking my blood pressure. Do you understand why you're special? I kept my face blank, gave the answers she wanted. I'm safe here. I'm the emergency one. I understand. She smiled, but her eyes stayed worried. That night, she installed a new camera in my room. I pretended not to notice, but I'd seen her hide the monitor in her bedroom closet. There's something deeply unsettling about how matter-of-fact this spare child is about their situation, like they've normalized being kept as living organ storage. The way the parents frame this as love while literally treating their 4th child as backup parts makes me wonder what kind of twisted logic they use to justify this horror show to themselves. She was watching me sleep. My sisters grew bolder in their rebellion. They started talking loudly about their imaginary sister at school, making her so present in conversations that teachers stopped correcting them. They drew pictures of 4 girls, wrote stories about quadruplets, made the impossible to ignore. The school counselor called another meeting. This time, all 3 of them went. They sat in those plastic chairs and told the same story. A sister in the basement, parents who lied, a girl who existed only as spare parts. The counselor's report labeled it as shared delusion and trauma bonding. Recommended family therapy. My parents declined, said they'd handle it at home. The handling came in the form of separation. Lily moved to the guest room. Emma and Olivia were forbidden from spending time together unsupervised. Divide and conquer. But they'd underestimated the bond between identical souls. We adapted. Notes became more elaborate, hidden in increasingly creative places. Lily left messages in her artwork. Emma encoded plans in math homework. Olivia used her hospital volunteering to research organ donation laws, printing information on a library computer. I studied every document she brought, learned about consent, about bodily autonomy, about rights I supposedly didn't have. Knowledge became another form of strength, another tool in my arsenal. The cameras showed me everything. Dad's business was struggling. Mom's book club was actually a wine club. They fought more, drank more, checked on me more. The pressure was building in the house like steam in a sealed pot. Then Emma got sick. Not broken arm sick, really sick. Fever that wouldn't break, joints that swelled like balloons. The monitors showed them rushing her to the hospital at 3 in the morning. I pressed my face against the screen, trying to see through the pixels to my sister's pain. The basement door opened at dawn. Both parents, still in yesterday's clothes. Dad carried the medical kit. Mom had consent forms. Just a precaution, she said. Just in case. You understand, don't you? She's your sister. I understood perfectly. I understood that my existence had only ever been about this moment. This choice that wasn't a choice. Give up pieces of myself or let Emma suffer. The spare parts fulfilling their purpose. They took more blood than ever before. Ran tests with machines they'd rented. Checked compatibility markers, tissue types, antibody levels. I submitted to it all, playing the compliant ghost while my mind raced. Emma's illness turned out to be autoimmune. Treatable with medication, not transplants. But the testing continued. Better safe than sorry, Mom said. Better to be prepared. My sister's anger transformed into something harder, sharper. They stopped trying to convince adults and started planning for war. We had 6 months until our 14th birthday. 6 months to turn wishes into reality. The planning intensified after Emma's illness. My sisters smuggled down more supplies through increasingly creative methods. Lily hid lockpicks in her paint tubes. Emma tucked wire cutters between textbook pages. Olivia brought medical supplies from her hospital volunteering, bandages and antiseptic hidden in her backpack's lining. I practiced escaping through the ventilation system. The metal ducts were narrow, but years of limited food had kept me small. I mapped every turn, every junction, timing how long it took to reach different rooms. My fingernails broke against screws as I learned to remove grates silently. During one practice run, I made it to the living room vent. Through the slats, I watched my parents arguing. Dad waved bank statements while Mom poured another glass of wine. Their voices carried clearly through the metal. The financial situation was worse than I'd realized. Dad's business had lost 3 major contracts. Mom's spending hadn't adjusted. They discussed selling the house, downsizing, cutting expenses. Neither mentioned their 4th daughter eating scraps in the basement. I crawled backward through the ducts, dust coating my throat. Back in my room, I documented everything. Knowledge was ammunition. Their desperation made them dangerous, but also vulnerable. My sister's separation couldn't stop our communication. We developed new methods. Lily painted messages in her artwork using specific color combinations only we understood. Emma created math problems whose answers spelled out words. Olivia left medical textbooks with highlighted passages about patient rights and bodily autonomy. Mom's paranoia escalated. She installed motion sensors in the hallway leading to the basement. The new cameras had night vision, infrared, capabilities I hadn't seen before. She started marking the food levels, weighing portions before bringing them down. One evening, she arrived with a medical kit and a different expression. Not routine checking. Something had changed. She drew blood while studying my face, comparing it to something on her phone. Photos of my sisters, I realized, looking for differences. After she left, I examined my reflection in the metal food tray. 13 years of basement living had left its mark. My skin was paler than my sister's. My hair, cut with smuggled scissors, hung unevenly. My eyes had a hollow quality theirs lacked. I looked like their ghost. The next next escape attempt came sooner than planned. Dad announced a business trip, flying out Thursday morning, returning Sunday night. Mom had committed to helping with the school fundraiser all day Saturday. Another window of opportunity. I spent the week preparing, strengthened my fingers with exercises, practiced the lock mechanism until I could open it in under 30 seconds, studied the motion sensor patterns my sisters had documented. Thursday arrived. Dad left for the airport at dawn. I watched him load his suitcase, kiss Mom goodbye, wave to my sisters eating breakfast. The taxi pulled away at 5:47 a.m. Mom followed her routine precisely. Breakfast for the triplets, drive them to school, return home, check on me. She brought oatmeal and started the morning tests. Blood pressure, temperature, reflexes. I submitted passively while memorizing the new sensor positions she'd installed. Friday passed slowly. I exercised, planned, waited. My sisters attended school, participated in activities, maintained their normal facades. Through the cameras, I watched them perform their lives while knowing they were counting hours until Saturday. Saturday morning, Mom prepared for the fundraiser. She wore her best dress, styled her hair carefully. The effort seemed excessive for a school event. Through the speakers, I heard her on the phone, confirming meeting times, discussing booth assignments. She'd be gone from 9 to 5. She checked on me before leaving, brought a larger breakfast than usual, guilt offerings, performed abbreviated tests, reminded me to be good, to stay quiet, to remember I was loved. The basement door locked with its electronic beep. I waited until her car disappeared from the driveway camera, counted to 500, then began. The lock yielded quickly to my practiced fingers. The door swung open silently on hinges I'd convinced Mom needed oiling. The motion sensors were positioned high, designed for adult heights. I crawled beneath their range, pressing myself against the walls. The kitchen looked different in daylight. Sunlight streamed through windows I'd only seen as dark rectangles on monitors. I wanted to stand in that light, feel warmth on my skin, but time was precious. I found Mom's purse hanging on a chair. Inside, her wallet contained photos, 3 school pictures of my sisters, nothing else. Her phone required a passcode I didn't know, but her car keys jingled promisingly. The garage offered new possibilities. Tools hung on pegboards. A ladder leaned against the wall. Boxes labeled Christmas decorations and old clothes lined shelves. In one box, I found baby clothes. 4 identical outfits. She'd saved them all. A car door slammed outside. My heart stopped. Through the garage window, I saw Lily climbing out of a neighbor's minivan. She was supposed to be at art class. Why was she home? I scrambled back through the house, staying low. The motion sensors blinked as I passed beneath them. The basement door was still open. I pulled it shut just as the front door opened, but the lock wouldn't engage from inside without the code. The red light blinked mockingly. I'd practiced opening it, not closing it. The door remained unlocked, evidence of my escape. Footsteps crossed overhead. Lily's familiar pattern. She went to her room, then the bathroom, then headed toward the kitchen, toward the basement door. I held my breath. The footsteps paused. Through the crack under the door, I saw her shadow. The handle turned slightly, then stopped. 3 taps on the door. Our emergency signal. I tapped back once. Danger. Her shadow moved away. I heard her in the kitchen making noise. Cabinets opening, dishes clattering, creating an alibi. Then her footsteps returned. Something slid under the door. A piece of paper. Mom forgot fundraiser cash. Coming back. Hide. Panic flooded my system. I grabbed the paper and flew down the stairs. My room looked normal, but the unlocked door screamed my escape. Think. The ventilation grate hung loose from my practice sessions. I yanked it fully open and squeezed inside, pulling it closed behind me. Metal edges cut my shoulders as I forced myself deeper into the duct. Mom's car pulled into the driveway 2 minutes later. Her heels clicked on the kitchen floor. Stopped at the basement door. The handle turned. Through the vent, I watched her enter my room. Her face went pale. She spun, checking corners, looking under the mattress. Ran back upstairs. I heard her footsteps racing through the house, doors slamming, her voice calling my sisters' names. She returned to the basement with her phone, called Dad. Mom's detective skills need work if she's just now noticing the baby clothes for 4 kids match the imaginary sister her daughters keep mentioning at school. Pretty big clue right there. Her words came in fragments. The lock. She's gone. How did she find her? Then she noticed the ventilation grate, slightly crooked, not quite flush. Her eyes tracked the ductwork across the ceiling. She grabbed a chair, stood on it, pressed her face against the grate. Our eyes met through the metal slats. Time froze. Neither of us moved. Then Mom smiled. Not her usual practice smile. Something colder. She left the chair in place and went upstairs. I heard tools rattling in the garage. She returned with a drill and metal brackets. Methodically, she began securing every grate in the basement, drilling brackets over each opening, trapping me in the walls. Hours passed in the metal tomb. My shoulders cramped. My breathing grew shallow. Dust coated my throat. Through tiny gaps, I watched Mom work. She hummed while she drilled, the same tune she hummed during blood draws. When she finished, she stood in the center of my room and spoke to the ceiling. Her voice carried through the ducts. She explained how she'd always known this day would come, how she'd prepared. The brackets were temporary, just until Dad got home. Then they'd extract me properly, safely, without damage to the merchandise. She left water bottles and energy bars on my mattress. A gesture of kindness, she called it. Proof of love. Then she went upstairs to wait. Through the ducts, I heard my sisters return from their activities. Normal conversation. No hint of the drama below. Mom served dinner, helped with homework, tucked them into bed. The perfect mother to her visible children. Night fell. The metal grew cold. My body screamed from the confined position, but I waited, listened, planned. Around midnight, soft scratching came from above, metal on metal. One of the brackets loosened. A grate lifted. Olivia's face appeared, tears streaming. She reached down, pulled me up through the opening into the laundry room. My legs buckled. Pins and needles shot through every limb. Olivia held me upright, guided me to the bathroom. I saw myself in the mirror, dust covered, bleeding from metal cuts, looking more ghost than girl. She helped me clean up while whispering urgently. Emma was keeping watch. Lily had created a distraction earlier, pretending to be sick so Mom would check on her instead of the basement. They'd stolen tools from the garage, worked in shifts to free me, but we couldn't leave. Mom had activated the security system. All doors and windows were armed. The code had been changed. We were all trapped until morning. Olivia led me to their room. Emma and Lily waited, faces pale with fear and determination. We huddled together, 4 identical girls planning in whispers. They showed me what they'd gathered. Money saved from allowances, a backpack with supplies, phone numbers for emergency services. The plan was simple. When Mom opened the door in the morning, we'd run, all 4 of us, together, get to the neighbor's house, call for help, prove I existed. But plans rarely survive first contact with reality. Mom didn't wait for morning. At 3 a.m., the bedroom door opened. She stood silhouetted against the hall light, holding the medical kit. Her eyes found me immediately among my identical sisters. She didn't speak, didn't need to. The message was clear. Come willingly, or watch your sisters suffer consequences. I started to stand. Emma grabbed my arm. Lily blocked my path. Olivia stepped between me and Mom. 3 identical faces set in determination. Mom's expression shifted. Surprise, anger, something like fear. She hadn't expected unified resistance. 1 disobedient daughter was manageable. 4 was a crisis. She tried reasoning, explained about family loyalty, about sacrifices, about love requiring difficult choices. My sisters didn't move, didn't respond, just stood between me and our mother. The standoff stretched. Mom's phone buzzed. Dad texting from his hotel. She glanced at it, distracted. In that moment, Emma lunged for the medical kit. It flew from Mom's hands, contents scattering across the floor. Chaos erupted. Mom grabbed for Emma. Lily pushed her back. Olivia pulled me toward the window. The security alarm wailed as she smashed the glass with a lamp. Lights flashed outside. The alarm company's automatic response. Neighbors' windows lit up. Dogs barked. The outside world suddenly intruding on our family secret. Mom froze. Calculated. The alarm would bring questions. Police, investigations, 4 identical girls, 1 without documentation. Her careful construction crumbling. She made her choice. Ran to the security panel, entered the code, silenced the alarm, then returned to find us climbing through the broken window. What followed was not a chase. It was negotiation through action. Mom trying to maintain control. Us refusing to comply. The balance of power shifting with each move. We made it to the backyard. Mom followed, speaking rapidly about misunderstandings, about fixing everything, about being a family again. Her words fell on deaf ears. The neighbor's motion lights activated. Mr. Dunn stepped onto his porch, concerned about the commotion. Mom smiled, waved, called out that everything was fine. Just a small accident. So sorry for the noise. But 4 identical girls standing barefoot in the yard at 3 a.m. was hard to explain, especially when one was dusty, bleeding, looking like she'd been living in walls. Mr. Dunn's expression changed from concern to suspicion. Mom saw it too, realized the story was unraveling. She made one last attempt, reached for me, promised everything would be okay if I just came inside. If we all just came inside. My sisters formed a wall, not aggressive, just resolute. Mom's hand fell to her side. The moment stretched. A family balanced on the edge of change. Then Mom turned and walked back to the house. Defeated or strategic, I couldn't tell. We spent the remaining night hours at Mr. Dunn's house. He didn't ask questions, just provided blankets and hot chocolate while his wife fussed over my injuries. My sisters took turns sleeping and watching the window facing our house. Dawn brought Dad's early return. His rental car screeched into the driveway at 6 a.m. Mom must have called him. Through Mr. Dunn's window, we watched our parents argue on the front lawn. Dad's gestures were sharp, angry. Mom's responses looked pleading. Then Dad saw us watching. His face went through transformations. Shock, recognition, something like grief. He started toward Mr. Dunn's house, but Mom caught his arm. They went inside together. An hour later, a different car arrived. A woman in a suit carrying a briefcase. Through the window, we watched her enter our house. The 3 of them talked in the living room. Documents spread on the coffee table. Mom crying, Dad stone-faced. My sisters explained what they'd done. The calls they'd made while I was trapped. The reports they'd filed. The evidence they'd gathered over years. Photos of the basement. Recordings of conversations. Proof of my existence. The woman was from Child Protective Services. The reports had triggered an investigation. 4 identical children, 1 undocumented. Medical tests without consent. Educational neglect. The case was complicated but clear. By noon, more officials arrived. Police, social workers, medical personnel. Our house became a crime scene. The basement photographed, evidence collected, statements taken. They brought me to the hospital first. 13 years of basement living had left its mark. Vitamin deficiencies, muscle weakness, dental problems, nothing irreversible, the doctors assured. Nothing that couldn't be healed with time and care. My sisters stayed with me, took turns holding my hand during examinations, translated medical terminology I didn't understand, made sure everyone knew we were 4, not 3. The legal complexities took months to unravel. Birth certificate applications, custody hearings, criminal charges. But that first day, sitting in a hospital bed with sunlight streaming through windows, surrounded by sisters who'd risked everything for me, I felt something new. I existed, not as spare parts, not as insurance, not as a ghost in the basement, but as a person with rights, with choices, with a future. The road ahead was uncertain. Foster care loomed, separation possible, therapy definite. But my sisters had given me the greatest gift. They'd chosen me over comfort, over safety, over family peace. They'd made me real. The hospital discharge papers crinkled in my hands as we stood outside the main entrance. 3 days of tests, evaluations, and documentation had passed in a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. My sisters flanked me, their presence a constant reminder that I wasn't dreaming. The social worker, Ms. Sebastian, led us to a van marked with a state seal. She'd been assigned to our case, a woman with kind eyes who spoke in measured tones about temporary placements and court procedures. I climbed into the vehicle, my legs still unsteady from years of limited movement. The drive took us past our house. Yellow tape crossed the front door. Official vehicles lined the driveway. Through the window, I glimpsed investigators carrying boxes from the basement. Evidence of my existence being cataloged, photographed, filed away. We arrived at a group home 20 minutes later. A converted Victorian with too many windows and not enough privacy. Ms. Sebastian explained the rules while we toured the facility. Shared rooms, scheduled meals, mandatory counseling sessions, freedom with boundaries. My sisters were placed in one room, me in another with a girl named Victoria who barely acknowledged my arrival. The bed was narrow but had clean sheets. The window opened to let in fresh air. Small improvements over concrete floors and recycled air. That first night, I lay awake counting the differences. No cameras watching, no locks on the doors, the ability to walk to the bathroom without permission. Simple things that felt revolutionary. Why did Mom think metal brackets would really hold a determined 13-year-old who'd already figured out the ducks? Her confidence while humming and drilling seems odd for someone who just discovered her secret child can escape through vents, like she's not taking the real problem seriously. The next weeks blurred together in a routine of appointments and evaluations. Psychologists tested my cognitive development. Doctors monitored my physical recovery. Lawyers prepared documentation for my legal existence. Each professional added notes to an ever-growing file about the girl who'd lived in a basement. My sisters attended the same appointments when possible. We sat in waiting rooms, 4 identical faces drawing stares from other patients. They helped me navigate insurance forms, medical terminology, legal procedures I didn't understand. Together, we learned the bureaucracy of becoming real. The custody hearings began 6 weeks after our escape. I watched from a wooden bench as lawyers argued about our future. Mom and Dad sat at separate tables, their own attorneys whispering strategies. They looked smaller in the courtroom, diminished without the power of locked doors and security cameras. Evidence mounted throughout the proceedings. The basement photographs, medical records showing years of unauthorized blood draws, the insurance documents that reduced me to a financial calculation. Each piece building a case for why we couldn't return home. Mom took the stand on on the third day. She wore her best dress, the one from the failed fundraiser escape. Her testimony painted a picture of difficult choices and maternal love. She'd kept me safe, she insisted, protected me from a world that wouldn't understand, fed me, educated me, never abandoned me like others might have. Dad's testimony focused on financial pressures, the insurance system that penalized larger families, the medical bills that would have bankrupted them. He presented spreadsheets showing how they'd allocated resources, as if my existence could be justified through careful accounting. My sisters testified together, a united front of matching faces and shared determination. They described discovering me, the nightly visits, the growing realization that love shouldn't require locks. Emma showed her encoded math homework. Lily presented her paintings with hidden messages. Olivia submitted her research on patient rights and bodily autonomy. I testified last. The courtroom fell silent as I described 13 years of watching life through screens. The birthday candles wished on alone, the medical tests presented as love, the moment I realized I existed only as replacement parts for my real siblings. The judge deliberated for 2 days. When she returned, her ruling was comprehensive. Parental rights terminated, criminal charges recommended, a restraining order preventing contact until we turned 18. The gavel came down with finality on the family we'd been. Foster placement came next. The system struggled with 4 identical teenagers who refused separation. Most families couldn't accommodate quadruplets. Group homes meant splitting up. Ms. Sebastian worked tirelessly, making calls, filing petitions, seeking exceptions. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Nicholas, one of the physicians who'd treated me, had a brother who ran a therapeutic foster home. They specialized in sibling groups, trauma cases, children who needed more than traditional placement. The facility was 2 hours away, but it meant staying together. We moved on a Tuesday. 4 matching suitcases filled with donated clothes and new documentation. The therapeutic home was a sprawling farmhouse with separate wings for different sibling groups. We were assigned the East Wing, 4 bedrooms connected by a common area. The house parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dunn, had fostered children for 20 years. They understood the importance of maintaining sibling bonds while encouraging individual growth. They gave us space to adjust, time to learn how to exist in a world with choices. I struggled with the freedom at first. 13 years of confinement had left habits hard to break. I hoarded food in my room until Mrs. Dunn gently explained the kitchen was always available. I asked permission for everything until Mr. Dunn reminded me that basic needs didn't require approval. School enrollment proved challenging. My education consisted of smuggled textbooks and stolen lessons from my sisters. Placement tests revealed gaps in my knowledge, strengths in unexpected areas. They started me in a modified program, catching up on 13 years of missed formal education. My sisters attended the local high school while I worked with tutors. We developed new routines around this separation. Morning breakfasts together, afternoon study sessions where they helped me understand concepts that came naturally to them, evening walks where we processed the strangeness of our new reality. Physical therapy addressed years of muscle atrophy and confined movement. The therapist designed exercises to build strength, improve coordination, expand my range of motion. Each session pushed boundaries, muscles remembering how to function beyond survival. The therapist documented my progress in charts and measurements. Grip strength improving, flexibility increasing, endurance building. Tangible proof that bodies could heal, adapt, grow stronger even after years of limitation. Group therapy sessions at the foster home brought together children with different traumas but similar needs. We sat in a circle, sharing stories or maintaining silence as needed. I learned that basement prisons came in many forms, that survival looked different for everyone. Individual counseling proved harder. The therapist, Dr. McVictoria, specialized in cases like mine. She had gentle methods of drawing out memories, examining the complex psychology of being raised as spare parts. We worked through layers of conditioning, beliefs instilled by parents who saw me as insurance rather than a daughter. The legal proceedings continued in the background. Criminal charges were filed against our parents, fraud for the insurance claims, child endangerment, unlawful imprisonment. The list grew as investigators uncovered more evidence. We testified in depositions, recounting details for official records. Mom and Dad's trials were scheduled for the following year. Their lawyers negotiated plea deals, seeking reduced sentences in exchange for admitting guilt. We received updates through Ms. Sebastian, each development adding closure to our past. Financial restitution became part of the legal resolution. The insurance money they'd claimed for triplets while hiding a 4th child. The medical expenses for unnecessary tests. The education costs for homeschooling that never happened. Numbers tallied into a trust fund for our future. Winter arrived with new challenges. The holidays approached, traditions we'd never shared equally. The foster home organized celebrations that acknowledged different backgrounds, different needs. We decorated a tree together, 4 identical ornaments among dozens of unique ones. On Christmas morning, I experienced my first gift exchange without hierarchy. No watching through screens while others opened presents. No single gift passed through the basement door. Just 4 sisters among other foster siblings, everyone equally included. The normalcy felt surreal. Sitting at a table without locks, choosing my own food portions, walking outside without surveillance. Each ordinary moment extraordinary when you'd lived without them. School progress came slowly but steadily. My tutors adjusted lessons to my learning style, filling gaps while building on strengths. Math came easily, years of calculating escape possibilities having built strong analytical skills. Reading comprehension was advanced from studying medical documents and insurance policies. Science fascinated me, especially biology, though the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Spring brought talk of the future. College applications for my sisters. Continued education planning for me. The trust fund would cover expenses, our parents' crimes inadvertently funding the futures they'd tried to limit. We researched schools that would keep us geographically close while allowing individual growth. The anniversary of our escape passed quietly. 1 year since the window shattered, since alarms wailed, since we'd stood barefoot in the yard. We marked it with a small ceremony, lighting candles not for wishes, but for remembrance. Mom and Dad's sentencing happened in May. 3 to 5 years for various charges, with possibility of parole. The judge considered their lack of prior records, their cooperation with authorities. We didn't attend the sentencing, choosing to move forward rather than witness their consequences. Summer brought new milestones. I passed my GED equivalency exam. My sisters graduated high school with honors. We attended their ceremony, 4 identical faces in the crowd, no longer divided by circumstances. The therapeutic foster home began preparing us for independent living, budgeting classes, cooking lessons, life skills that assumed futures beyond locked doors. We learned together, filling gaps in practical knowledge. My physical health continued improving. The vitamin deficiencies resolved, dental work completed, muscle tone approaching normal for my age. Each medical checkup showed showed progress, bodies healing from years of neglect. As our 18th birthday approached, decisions loomed. The foster system would release us. College acceptances arrived for my sisters. I'd been accepted into community college, a starting point for catching up on formal education. The trust fund would support us, but independence meant more than financial security. We chose to rent an apartment together near the community college. 4 bedrooms, no basement, windows that opened wide, multiple exits, security that meant safety, not imprisonment, a space to continue healing while building futures. The move happened gradually. Purchasing furniture felt significant, choosing items for permanence rather than survival. Each decision was ours to make. Paint colors, furniture placement, rules that protected rather than confined. On our birthday, we held our own celebration. Choosing paint colors after 13 years of basement gray must feel like picking your whole personality from a hardware store. Talk about pressure to get your first real decision right. A cake with 18 candles divided equally. No hierarchy, no hidden children, just 4 sisters who'd survived the impossible through refusing to abandon each other. I enrolled in classes for the fall semester. General education requirements while I decided on a major. The campus felt overwhelming after years of confinement, but my sisters walked me through registration, showed me buildings, helped me navigate this new world. That first day of classes, I sat in a lecture hall surrounded by strangers who knew nothing of basements or spare parts. I existed as simply another student, anonymous in the best way. My notebook opened to a fresh page, ready to be filled with knowledge chosen rather than smuggled. The professor began discussing cellular biology. I took notes, understanding more than expected from years of studying my own medical records. Education as a choice rather than survival strategy. Learning because I wanted to, not because I had to stay smart enough to escape. After class, I met my sisters for lunch in the cafeteria. We sat together at a table, visible to everyone, no longer divided by floors and locks. Emma talked about her engineering courses. Lily described her art history class. Olivia shared excitement about pre-med requirements. 4 identical faces with diverging paths, held together by shared history and chosen bond. We'd survived by refusing to see each other as competitors for resources or love. Now we thrived by continuing that choice, supporting individual growth while maintaining connection. That evening, I sat at my desk in our apartment, textbooks spread before me. No cameras watched, no locks confined. The window beside me opened to let in evening air and distant sounds of normal life. I opened my laptop, began typing my first assignment. The prompt asked for a personal essay about overcoming challenges. I stared at the blank page, considering how to condense 13 years into acceptable paragraphs. How to explain existence as insurance without sounding fictional. How to describe freedom to those who'd never known confinement. I began simply. I spent 13 years preparing for a life I wasn't supposed to have. The words flowed, truth finding its way onto the page. Not for sympathy or shock value, but as testimony that survival took many forms. That families could be prisons and love could be locks. That existence itself could be an act of rebellion. My sisters studied in the living room, their presence a comfortable backdrop. We'd established new routines around school schedules, shared meals, quiet hours, boundaries that protected rather than divided, rules we'd chosen together. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but ours to shape. There would be more challenges, relationships to navigate without the framework of hierarchy, career decisions without predetermined roles, the ongoing process of learning to exist as more than someone's contingency plan. But tonight, I had homework to complete, classes to attend tomorrow, a life to build from the foundation of finally being real. I typed steadily, no longer a ghost in the basement, but a student with assignments, a sister with choices, a person with a future. The essay concluded as midnight approached. I saved the document, closed my laptop, prepared for bed. Through my window, city lights twinkled with possibilities. Somewhere across town, in separate cells, our parents served their sentences. But here, in this apartment, 4 sisters continued the process of turning survival into living. I set my alarm for morning classes, plugged in my phone, turned off the lamp. In darkness that I could banish at will, I fell asleep to the sound of my sisters breathing in nearby rooms. No longer spare parts, but whole people. We'd claimed our existence through refusing to be divided. The alarm would bring tomorrow's challenges, new lessons, continued healing, the ongoing work of building lives worth living. But tonight, we were simply 4 sisters who'd chosen each other over comfort, truth over silence, freedom over safety. And that choice, renewed daily in small acts of independence and connection, was how we continued to exist. Not as anyone's backup plan, but as ourselves. Complete, real, free. Thanks for letting me wonder out loud with you today. Funny how a few questions can flip your whole perspective, huh? Until we meet again. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.